Welcome to our next topic concerning raising awareness for preventing suicide. Is that talking about, again, 13 reasons why. We're going to get into some workshops and other things, but Taylor, I want to start with you in that besides suicide, the show also depicted bullying and sexual abuse. Talk about the fact that this show also, in dealing with suicide, it also talked about bullying and sexual abuse, because in my opinion, a lot of suicide does stem from children getting bullied or kids getting abused. So talk about, from that perspective, those other two very, very important issues.
I think a lot of the times bullying that goes on in high school, people shame other people on their bodies, the way they talk, just every little thing that someone does. If they come from a bad home or they come from somewhere, and it's to me it's ridiculous, because other people just do it for whatever reason to not focus on, in my case, some problem, not in my case, but in my opinion, when some other people have problems going on with themselves. That's how I always like to think of it. Anyone who bullies someone else has their own demons, has their own problems, and a lot of the times now we focus on shaming the bully, and also the bully shaming the victim, and we have to look at both of those. We can't just go, this person should not be bullied, and the person who bullied is evil. We have to take it from both sides and say, why is this person bullying this other person? Because I think that's more of a way to stop bullying.
That's correct.
Jack, I want to get your thought of this, but one thing I want to say is that I once read, and I just think it's so true, that a lot of people who put down other people, those people suffer from very low self-esteem. And the only way they can feel better is by insulting other people.
Well, I think Taylor said it really eloquently. We have bullying because people are being bullied. There's no bully who comes out of a vacuum. And, most children who bully are being bullied at home or bullied by somebody else. But I think you're right. Generally, people who, do something like that are definitely lacking in self-esteem, because if you need to get your sense of worth or power by dominating or hurting another person, that obviously says that you absolutely don't value your own soul. You don't value yourself, because what you're doing is injurious and detrimental to someone else. So who could feel good about that? I mean, that's a very sick way of thinking. But yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of social insecurity, and also people who are being bullied and we don't know about it. Just because there's a white picket fence and there's a nice house and a nice car in the driveway doesn't mean somebody's not being sexually assaulted by an uncle or a cousin. So and there's very little language for people to use, especially when the frontal lobe and the thinking processes are not developed to really express this to teachers or parents, and children internalize a lot of their problems because they don't know how to use language or to find resources. And so what they do is they act it out, and they act it out by bullying. And adults do the same thing if they're unsophisticated psychologically or don't have the words or have shame. So I agree with you. I think that any of that type of behavior is really reflective of poor self-image, and lack of sophistication.
Moving on, Jackie, we met shortly after your son took his own life, and what I want to know is how it impacted your life, and specifically, how have you coped? How has your husband coped? How has your other son coped? What's life been like for you and your family since Daniel took his life?
Well, God bless you. That's a good question. Thank you for asking about my well-being, Howie. It's been a very difficult road. It's almost 18 months. It'll be 18 months, I think, on the 27th. The first year was, I think I was pretty much in shock. And then the anniversary was horrendous. I really had no idea it was going to be as bad as it was. It was Christmas, and I had seen you. We had a show, and then I had a hip replacement in February. However, the whole time, Chris and I have been talking about it, and working in our foundation, therapy, groups, trying to really take care of our own health, making sure that we're eating properly, and we also it was suggested to us that we get a therapy dog. To me, it was a little bit overwhelming, but in fact we did. We got a little King Charles Cavalier, and she's been very helpful. I've never thought of service dogs. I did work in a therapy agency where they had dogs running around, and I thought, this is so weird. I don't think it's all that professional to have your dogs around. But now, I can see how people really, and I have a friend who has the same dog as me, only she lives in Virginia, and she uses the dog to go to hospitals and to visit psych wards and older people, and the dog actually works as a therapy dog, and it's helped us. If I need somebody to cuddle, or if Chris isn't around, or my son Benjamin goes to college in California, so it's kind of, it's nice to have another soul around, and I think Daniel kind of works through him. You might think that's kind of hokey, but she knows if I'm having a moment. So that's really helped a lot. My son probably wouldn't like me talking about him, but I will say we all deal with this in different ways. Daniel's father and I talk almost every day. Because we were the parents of Daniel, and we sort of grieve about Daniel. He'll call me before he goes to bed, and we're all friends. Chris, we've been together we're really a family unit for 15 years. So Richard and I talk, and we sort of talk about what we miss about Daniel and when he was little and things like that. And Chris and I talk about other things, and we deal with functioning and future type things. My biological family, my family of origin, happens to be sort of not that emotionally flexible. So I have to say that in general, it's not easy to recover from someone's passing, but passing from suicide carries a really super heavy stigma. At first, people I would go into King Cullen, and people that I saw that knew me would turn around and run the other way because they didn't want to talk to me. Sometimes people can be really very unthinking. I had an incident where a friend said, "Oh, I've got to show you this tape of my nephew playing in a rock and roll band on stage." My son played in a rock band on stage, and I was like, ugh, and she knows it, and it kind of, I have to be thick-skinned, but it really hurt me because I thought, and people say things that are just off the cuff, when are you going to get over that? Oh. Yeah, I've heard, when are you going to get over him? Quite a few times. Oh. That stands me. You can say anything about me. I'm really cool with that. I'm really okay. But people saying things about my son pushes me over the edge. I have to say, the stigma instead of people caring for a suicide survivor in a more delicate way, it's the same as like when somebody dies from cancer. Oh, we feel so bad for you. When someone dies in your family from suicide, people treat you like you did something wrong. Well, you got no treatment for this kid? My son Daniel had excellent treatment, but like cancer, treatment does fail, and I always say that. So I've also been going to school. I went back to school, and I am getting my certification in hypnosis, because I want to learn new ways to help people to get better quicker in my practice, which, I'm starting to go back to my office at work. We're moving along, but it is like, shocking and hurtful, and I'm sure, Taylor, you must get this sometimes, the insensitive and outrageous comments that people can make, and the people closest to you, or, can be the most brazen and the most judgmental. So, I've had tons of support from people, and then other people who swore up and down that they would be there for me. Oh, well, just call me for lunch. And then they tell me like 100 times that they're too busy, and then I see they're in Aspen on Facebook. I see that they're cheering people at dinner. Like that freaks me out. So
One thing I want to ask is, I've seen it in person, and it touches my heart, but another wonderful woman we met, Julie Carr.
Oh, I saw her today.
Her 13-year-old son, Brendan, took his life, and from the very beginning, when we had the vigil for Brendan, I felt that you and Julie had a bond that you two can relate to each other. Talk about how important that relationship with Julie has meant to you.
Well, that morning, I think I called you or texted you, and I said, no more, Howie. I am not, when my son passed away, nobody talked about it. I said, no more. We're going to do something to say that we are supportive of this family and that this child will be missed. And Howie and I, and other people, we had like 200 people come and Rocco and support us, and just to be together. And from that time, like, Julie and I have really like interacted and sort of mentored each other. And sometimes I'll say, Julie, like, I just like need to talk to somebody who gets it, and it's funny because I saw her today, and we were actually at Mass. She was 3 rows ahead of me, and I was gonna grab her and see if she wanted breakfast, and she walked out and before I could catch her, and I was like, where are you? I had such a bummed moment. I was like, oh, I can't find Julie. Like, I'm looking all over. But we have together, tried to like, process and talk about it and work on, helping other people and like deal with the most really excruciating, unimaginable loss. You cannot put into words what it's like to put your child in the ground. It is unimaginable, especially when it's in this manner. So I wish this on no one, and I'm really working to be, I put myself out there not because I'm so important or narcissistic, but somebody's gotta share like how it happens, how it feels. But I wake up every day when I see, especially when my son Benjamin's around, I try to make sure I have my makeup on and I don't look schlubby, because one thing I thought of before I came here is, I can't, the best way for me to honor my son, Daniel, is to live with the utmost integrity and to make every moment count and to try my hardest. And that is how I live in my life, and that's my goal, to honor my love for my son. If I were to do anything else, it would be just a terrible shame, and my other son would lose a mother, so that would be not good. So